Hi everybody. Next chapter of the S.M.A.C. talk. I apologize for my attire and everything, but it's like 34 degrees and snowy outside, so we're going to do this warm. The next topic I want to cover is what I call the economy of violence. Now I want you to think of everything you do as costing calories. Calories is a very generic term, and I know we usually mean it to mean kilocalories and a whole bunch of other stuff, and mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Nah, whatever. Just think of it as you only have so much fuel in the tank. Every action that you take is going to cost a measure of that fuel, and that cost is not static. The more fuel you have in the tank, the less those actions cost. As that tank depletes, the cost goes up. So you have to constantly be doing a budgetary concern or examination between what you're doing versus what it costs. Fighters who can fight longer not only are better conditioned, but do better energy management. So worry about that. And you can affect that by things like your breathing and all of that. Always breathe. Always keep your lizard and your monkey fed. Here's a trick that nobody told me, but I figured out after about 5 years. Nowhere in the SCA Convention of Combat does it say you can't talk while you fight. Every other martial art that I've ever done, there are kiyas and all these other things that we do to expose our chi and push energy. That's not really what it's about. It's about a way to think about it. Talking makes you breathe. You can't hold your breath if you're talking. Even if you're just talking to yourself. Mumble little mantras, think about what you're doing, compliment your opponent on his kit. Hey, that's a really nice, whatever. Just jibber jabber. Just keep talking. And if you don't think you can talk and your brain not be involved, you can't. That's my mechanism. Find something else for you. Some people chew gum. Some people actively work on their breathing. That's fine, but don't take up too many brain cycles. It's a balancing act. But let's do that. All right, so we talked briefly in the last video about body mechanics. Specifically, I want to talk about how we apply the body mechanic theory to what we're going to do. So, upper body, again, everything from pretty much your middle core up. And again, I'm just talking about skeletal muscles and the skeletal system. I'm not talking about internal organs and all of that. Just your skeletal muscle system from about your mid-core up is built to do one thing really good and a lot of things okay. So how do we apply that? Our base stance should be as close to that neutral as we can find. You can push your sword back, you can put your sword forward, right? But you want to try and maintain that midline. Even if you put your classic flat snap position back, don't wing it out. If you're going to be in a hanging guard, don't wing it out. Keep it close to your body. The closer you can get to the center line, the better. In my personal experience, for me, what works better for my sword stance is I end up, because I'm primarily a sword and buckler fighter, I end up very much in a position like this, to where my sword is part of my defense. Okay? Like this. So if you look at how chewed up my stick is, most of my defense is built around not just distance, like we talked about in pace control and timing, but also line controls. But that's the smaller part of it. The bigger part that I want to talk about, and the thing that I think is more important, is our foot position. So I'm going to move the camera down for a second so you can see my feet, but I want to talk about your stance and foot position, okay? Hi, everybody. These are my feet. All right, so we're going to talk real quick about stance and how to set into a neutral stance. The first thing I want you to do is when you're standing, I want you to put your heels and toes together, put the sides of your feet together, sides of your knees, stand up straight, hips over knees, over ankles, and your back up and straight so your shoulders are over your hips. All right? Get in that stance, kind of like in the military position of attention. And then I want you to go what in the Army we call parade rest, which is basically put your feet about shoulder width apart. Okay? And kind of relax. Loosen up all your things so you're in that stance. All right? This is most people's neutral stance. I'm not doing anything. I'm not planning anything. This is what I'm doing. This is your neutral stance. It looks very much like what a lot of people call horse stance or box boxer stance. And it's not a bad stance, but it's not what I'm going to call baseline neutral, okay? So you're here. Ooh, that wind's cold. About that far apart. Now I want you to take about that same width, which usually is about equidistant to the width of your shoulders. And I want you to move that width front to back, okay? So if you're standing here, nice neutral stance, take 1 foot and step back. About that same width, about the same width as your shoulders, step back. Okay? Doesn't matter which foot, play with it until you find which one you like better. You honestly should be able to stand in either. Because what I want you to realize, and you're going to find that you want to naturally kind of bend your knees or load your knees. And what will happen is if you keep your hips and shoulders in line, is your back foot, whichever one that is, that knee will end up in line over your toe. Whereas your front knee will end up in line over your ankle. Okay? So you're here. Kind of bouncy, bouncy. Now what I want you to realize about this stance is if you look at it, it is a snapshot of the way we walk. The human stride is what our physical systems are built to do. This is your most basic stance and movement. Everything starts from this. Okay? And front to back. Looks like this. Just simply walking forwards and backwards. So what I'm going to refer to as neutral stance is literally just a snapshot mid-stride.